So Kyle, what is OCD? Define it. What is scrupulosity? And is this something that's found in people that are diabolically afflicted?
It's a great topic, Jesse, and it's one that one show is probably only going to scratch the surface. But so let's go with in order of your questions, obsessive compulsive disorder. And so this is one of the things that I like so much about modern psychology terms is that they're pretty descriptive. So obsessive, compulsive disorder. So if you go backwards, it is a disorder. And they're using Thomistic language, whether they know it or not. And so to talk about disorder or an inordinate fixation with something, this is very Thomistic language. So rightly ordered, there can be obsessive, compulsive behavior that is rightly ordered. So let's get that in there. And so it's a disorder. We are not precise with our language anymore. And so men have a tendency to singularly focus. We don't multitask. And so that attribute could be considered an obsession, meaning that for that moment, we're obsessed with that particular thing. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We automatically associate a negative connotation. The negative connotation of an obsession is that it is the fixation on something to the exclusion of the awareness necessary for other things. And that may be an oversimplified version, but what you're looking at is one of the hallmarks of not only psychological obsession, but diabolical obsession is the exclusion of other things, activities, concepts, whatever, that are requisite with one's vocation. So, for instance, if I'm sitting in the church and I am attending the holy sacrifice of the Mass, I should be in that moment, I should be obsessed with the Mass. Now, there's no other thing that I should be aware of other than the Mass. And so that's a proper and ordered obsession. Now, let's suppose I'm sitting in the Mass with small children. Now, if I am obsessed to the ignoring of my vocation, which is, where are those children? What are they doing? If I've got a 4-year-old boy that I'm responsible for, I better be aware of where he is, as well as have as much of my attention as possible in the holy sacrifice of the Mass. So let me stop there and get your reaction, and let's discuss what we've said so far.
Yeah, I heard you say that OCD, those terms, obsessive compulsive disorder, those are Thomistic terms. That's very interesting. And they're also spiritual warfare terms. Obsessive, diabolical obsession, the disorders to our faculties as a result of a life of mortal sin. So to me, it seems like in psychology, at least in calling some certain behavior, the type of scrupulosity, calling it OCD, I think they're tracking with good Catholic thinkers. And I think that one of the things that I do believe, Kyle, is that a lot of people that have had a metanoia conversion, and now they've had that prick of conscience and they want to follow Jesus radically. and sometimes good Catholics, traditional Catholics, they will fall into this, and they're not diabolically afflicted. I don't think they are, but they do become very scrupulous, where they think that anything that they think or say or do may be sinful, when in fact, many times they're not. So I do see this as a problem with people that really take their faith serious and that have had a metanoia, a conversion, and a prick of conscience. I do see that this is something that's kind of prevalent in the traditional Catholic community.
It does tend to be, along with a hypercriticism. A criticism of all things. And then this takes, it extends to their own practices, their own life. But hallmark of, you're going to look for that hallmark of, does this thing, is it disordered in as much as it gets me to forget or to put aside the obligations correct or are consistent with my vocation? And I really want to talk about that as a first hallmark or a first place of what we call psychological compatibility with the demon. And so to be obsessed with something to the exclusion of my vocation or what I should be doing. For instance, I'm in the holy sacrifice of the Mass, but I am fixated that my prayer book should be just right. My bookmark should be just right. I'm thinking about how the priest is sitting. I'm thinking about the altar server's shoes. While I'm in the Mass, I'm not in the Mass, so to speak. And so this hypercriticism is what the demon uses to pull you out of right ordered fixation, if you will, or right ordered attention.
You recognize dangers of OCD and the pessimism it leads to. It is indeed the spirit of denial, to borrow a phrase of Goth's. One must fight against it as vigorously as one would fight a demon, for it behaves like a demon. The saints have railed against scrupulosity as one of the greatest dangers, so the moment you see it surging up, step on it, or ask Our Lady to step on it for you. OCD is a serpent that one can outsmart, and C.S. Lewis out of the silent planet, Ransom learns that he has to kill his enemy, Weston, because Weston cannot be reasoned with or defeated any other way. He must be destroyed. I believe you know this at the core of your being, at the apex of your mind. Your OCD is not yourself and cannot speak for you. It's an infernal machine that needs its power switch turned off. You cannot defeat it through argument. You cannot refute your doubts because they are inherently irrational, yet masquerading as real doubts. They are fake dubia in the costume of dubia. Do not then give in to this infernal machinery. The very fact that you can recognize it as a kind of torture device that will not let you rest in the peace of Christ shows that you recognize for what it is. Eve gave into the voice of the serpent lying to her. In contrast, the Virgin Mary turned her ear only to the angel and later to her son. Imitate the new Eve and whom or what you listen to. So I hear Dr. Kwasniewski saying that we got to just shut down this mystical phenomena. That's what I hear him saying. Kyle?
Oh, he's absolutely right. And I liked how you introduced this article as this is a voice of reason, is he's consistently written from a true traditional standpoint. And it abrades many people who have a neo-traditionalist idea. And so there's a neo-traditionalist, modern traditionalist, if you will, idea out there. And so a lot of the TLM goers, a lot of the traditional Latin community is caught up in this neo-traditionalist movement. And it's hypercritical, but he really puts his finger on it when he says this is irrational. And what he's going to go on to say, and I think a point to contemplate during the upcoming break, is that one will neither gain heaven nor lose it on a technicality. And that is at the heart of scrupulosity, because what it does is it subtly shifts the focus. And so one now becomes more concerned with me loving God rather than loving God. Well, for him, it's how I'm doing it. It is, so the focus goes from ad orientem to ad hominem. How is this reflect on me? There's an old country song, or fairly new country song, that has a great line in it. This guy's trying to pick up a girl. He goes on and on about himself. And he says, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me? So scrupulosity really focuses on the individual. And it is a not so subtle shift from ad orientem to ad hominem. No longer focused on God, now focused on self. You combine that with the hypercritical standpoint, and it effectively cuts off or chokes out charity, true Christian charity, which is the desire for salvation. again, heaven will not be gained nor lost on a technicality.